Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Serge. So I wanted to cover today a quick topic. I mean, it's not really quick, there's a lot involved, but I wanted to cover a small aspect of this topic that vegetarian or vegan use to try to convince people that eating red meat is actually bad for you. It causes cancer, heart disease, and so on and so on. I'm sure you've heard of that. Which there's a lot of confusion, as you may know, when it comes to this topic. But today I wanted to focus on a small molecule, which is called TMAO. So TMAO is a molecule that is generated from choline, betaine, carnitine with gut microbiome metabolism. So basically, when you eat those different molecules, your body converts TMA into TMO, and there's some papers suggesting that TMAO is associated or can actually cause heart disease, cancer, and so on. This is the biggest argument right now when it comes to not consuming red meat like beef, because they believe that it can lead to these different issues. So let's get into this a little bit. So let me share my screen here. Yes. So this is some graphs that I got that look at the TMAO production when you consume these different foods like mushroom, bread, biscuit, eggs, cheese, milk, and beef. So as we can see, the beef consumption is about 60% of the control. And ironically, funny enough, the mushroom consumption leads to more TMA production by the body. And we know that mushroom actually today is a superfood. It's really healthy, it's really beneficial for your body, and so on and so on. So on the other side, these doctors look at the association of TMO with the consumption of seafood, fish, as we can see here. So skate, squid, octopus, crab, and so on and so on. We can see that fish and seafood, it's much higher than beef. Okay, and the second graph here is the same thing. So tuna, trout, swordfish. I mean, we can see compared to beef, these different foods lead to a production, a generation, a lot more TMO than beef. And we know that fish and seafood is highly associated with protection of heart disease, cancer, and so on. So when you look at the Japanese, for example, which are high consumer of those different foods, they live the longest. Actually, they have a long lifespan, and they have the highest risk of heart disease, cancer, and so on and so on. So if the TMAO was associated in causing heart disease, cancer, like they claim here, we should see this in people who eat a lot of fish and seafood. And we actually see the opposite. Doesn't make sense, right? It just doesn't make sense. And then, so there's a paper that came out. Let me share my screen again. Good. That came out recently that looks like eggs. So as we could see on the graph, egg consumption leads to TMO production. So this paper actually just came out a few months ago, did see no raise of fasting TMO levels in people eating eggs. So we know when we do a randomized clinical trial, which is the ultimate test when it comes to nutrition science, is to randomize people. Okay, people eat eggs, people don't eat eggs, and you control the different factors and look at one change in the diet, which in this case is eggs. People were eating eggs or not. So, and they didn't see any changes at all in the TMO productions. Again, that's support of what we just talked about. Eggs, actually, it's really healthy, a lot of nutrition, really complete food. And this paper was really, really interesting. They did see that foods do lead to production of TMO as well. And we know today that vegetables are associated with a reduction of incidence of cancer, heart disease, and so on and so on. So if vegetables contain and produce TMO, we should see the same thing in those studies, which we don't. This is another nail in the coffin that the vegetarian, the argument that they use that TMO is bad for you, you shouldn't eat red meat, beef, and so on and so on. So vegetables do the same thing as red meat or meat in general. So if TMO was an actual problem, we will see it in those big studies on population, and we don't. We just don't. This is a fake argument. There's no science supporting this at all. And lastly, another big argument that people use to not consume meat, like red meat, is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, stands for PAH. So they say that when you cook meat, you actually cause the production of PAHs in the meat. And then these molecules are pro-oxidants and causes inflammation in the body, causes cancer, heart disease, and so on and so on. Again, if that was the case, we should see it in those big population studies, and we don't. And this paper demonstrates that the most important sources of these molecules is actually vegetables. So if PAHs are really a problem for diet causing inflammation, heart disease, and so on, we should see that in people who consume a lot of vegetables, and we don't. So these are fake arguments that are not supported by science. The PAHs, TMO, those two molecules are present in vegetables, in meat. They are made by our body, actually, and they may be associated with heart disease and so on, but there's other factors causing the problems, because we should see it in randomized clinical trial, and we don't. We just don't. So there's no science supporting that. So if your friends who are vegan, vegetarian bring up this argument, you can show them this video. You can let them know there's no science. There's a lot more to it, actually. I'm writing a book right now on this topic, and I'm going to bring all the science together to demonstrate that there are no problems. It's like cholesterol or saturated fat. We've known that for decades, actually. They are not causative when it comes to heart disease and cancer and so on. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any question, you can write it below the video. So on this, God bless you.